Good morning and welcome to Africa, a giant continent of incredible wildlife, expansive wilderness and beautiful people. We're in a small section of it here called the Kruger National Park, and an even smaller section called Djuma and Arathusa, 1,500 hectares or about 3,500 acres of magnificent low-veld wilderness. And we today are going to be driving around trying to find some form of animal life to show you the world on the internet. You are with Wild Earth. My name is James. On camera we have Djuma, the wildebeest, beautiful white gloves that he is sporting today. Looks a bit like a waiter. In the control room we have Tara and Brian. Eugene is monitoring things from the comfort of his bed, and Brent, and who's with Brent? Brent and Brian. No, it's not. Oh, Brent and Brian, sorry, are out. I don't know what's going on. There's so many cameramen around here. Brent and Brian are out trying to find things east of us, and we're going to go and head off to the slightly to the west, where we heard some zebra alarm calling earlier. Did have tracks of a single lioness, so we're going to see what we can find there. So you are on a live game drive, in case you're wondering, and you've stumbled across this website and don't know how you've come to be where you are. We are very excited to have you along, especially if you're a new viewer. If you want to send us your comments or your questions, please do so at any convenience. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, questions at WildEarthTV on the internet. We're not currently taking phone calls. We probably won't ever take phone calls. Those are your two methods of communication, and we'd love to hear from you. Questions, comments, anything you'd like to say to us, please send them through. Right, I think without further ado, and my blethering will cease, and we will go forward and find something exciting. It is about probably 10 degrees Celsius here, which, if I'm not mistaken, puts us at roughly 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's not very warm, but it's not particularly cold either. And this is the first morning that I've seen here since I've been here, which is about 4 weeks, where we haven't had a nice orange sky to start on. Yesterday evening we had the Nkuhuma Pride, pride of 7 lions and a young male. I think there's quite a lot of pressure on them. We had some interesting interactions with them yesterday. Leopards have been a bit scarce in the last 2 days, so we're going to do our best to try and find a leopard if we can. And I know Brent is heading off to see if he can find some tracks of a cheetah, or perhaps pick on some lions as well. But there'll be any number of other interesting things to see on the way. A little bit of pink there in the sky. And in case you're wondering if anybody else does this, and if you have stumbled upon a website that is one of many, you have not. This is a world first. What you're seeing is completely live. There is no editing. There is no fixing of colors, of contrast or anything like that. There's no post-production. You're watching a completely live game drive. And normally we would be broadcasting astonishingly in HD, or high definition. At the moment the resolution is a little bit down because someone put a spade through our power cables, and unfortunately we have to fix those before we can go broadcast again in HD. Such are the trials of working in Africa. where the design and the layout of electricity cables can be slightly, especially in these lodge regions, can be slightly less than they're planned. So the zebra have stopped alarm calling now, but we're going to go down towards the area where we saw them. Heard them, sorry, and then have a listen. There's the zebra in front of us. There are the zebra in front of us there. And some wildebeest. They don't look particularly panicked. So we'll just stop and have a listen and see here. Quite a nice little morning scene. All right, view? Yep. The oxpeckers, which are the little birds that eat the ticks off the animals, are already out in force, having their breakfast of blood-filled ticks and other ectoparasites. A common arrangement, of course, in the African wild is zebra moving with wildebeest or gnu's, and in South Africa we don't have huge herds of them moving together, but they still like to form little agglomerations like this, which sort of helps them with safety. The more eyes they have looking about the place, the better it is for them. Rather pretty little scene, this. So the zebra could have been alarm calling at a predator. They could have been having a bit of a fight. But certainly they seem to have calmed down a bit. And all I can hear at the moment is the gentle cropping of grass and the winter dawn chorus. So often I hear people say, and a lovely update from one of our zoomies and people who are monitoring our cameras all the time. Thank you so much to all of you zoomies and people who watch our cameras. You've been hearing leopards. You saw a leopard at 7 o'clock yesterday morning, at least yesterday evening. And you've heard leopards calling and lions calling all over the place through the night. We really appreciate your efforts to keep us posted. You really do make a big difference to our sort of daily efforts, which are not that important, but what is important is the effect that you have actually on conservation, because you're inspiring all sorts of people to tune in and enjoy the African wildlife, and once they do that, obviously conservation becomes a lot easier for us out here. I'm just going to quickly tell you how the gnu got its name. They make a funny noise when they're sort of trying to mark territory, I think, the bulls, and they go bow, 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 and that apparently sounds like gnu, 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 and that's why they're called gnus. I'm not sure why they're called wildebeest or wildebeest, which means wild beast. They don't look particularly wild in comparison with anything else. Right, I think we're going to move on from these chaps. there is reports in the area now of lion tracks about, so we'll keep having a look for those. I had initially planned to come into this area to try and find some leopard tracks, but if the lions present themselves, who are we to reject them? Will you just have an update on those tracks heading towards quarantine, please? Have you got an update on those tracks heading towards quarantine? Okay, copy that. So they were heading sort of this way where we are. I just want to stop here, if you wouldn't mind showing us that rather beautiful misty morning. Get your artistic side out. Hello Lucy in South Bend, Indiana. You want to know, was one of those zebras pregnant? Lucy, I didn't notice specifically. What you should remember is that zebra have what we call rear gut fermentation, which means that the fermentation or digestion of the grass that they eat happens in that hind gut, which tends to make them look fat all the time because of the amount of gas there is. And as I don't know if you know anything about horses, or if you're around with zebra, they tend to let fly, as it were, as they run off, and that's because of that. So they always look slightly fatter than they probably are. Hello Michelle in Seattle. I believe you are a new viewer. You are most welcome, and I believe you're coming to South Africa in September. Lovely time of the year. It'll be a lot warmer than it is now, certainly in this area. And you want to know, sorry, I've just heard something. Just having a quick listen, Michelle, I will get back to you. And you want to know if zebras breed year-round or if there's a specific time of year. What you'll find is that there's a peak birthing time. A peak birthing time around when the first rains come, which is November-ish, but they will breed all year round if they can. So there's a birth peak, but there's no specific season. Welcome to it, Michelle. Keep sending your questions. I hope it's not raining in Seattle, though I suspect it is. I hope you enjoyed Viam's artistic shot there of the mist. Really very beautiful morning. Suddenly. That bird that you can hear is a fork-tailed drongo. Hello Gail, you want to know why it was yesterday, everybody wasn't around yesterday morning. First of all, where were you? And secondly, the Nkuhuma pride that we found was very kind of uneasy, very kind of, they looked to be sort of adrenaline charged. And Gail, what we found out was that there was a buffalo kill to the south of us. And we're pretty sure they were feeding on that kill with the two big males, the Matimba males, but they're right on the Styx Pride boundary. And what I suspect happened is that the Styx Pride probably arrived at that kill, and there was a big fight, and they ran off pretty much just before we found them. And I think that's what happened. Lion dynamics are always changing around here, and yeah, I think that's probably a territorial dispute. Hello Angela and Brian in Missouri. You've just watched a documentary made about this area, about the coalition of lions called the Majingilani, I think. And you want to know, you saw when two male lions attacked another, one went for the groin and the other went for the neck. Well, there are probably two reasons for it. First, the most obvious, is that rather like if you're in a street fight as a human being, the groin is one of the most effective ways to go to down your opponent with one swift kick. The other is that because of the protection that the mane provides to the neck, it's the most vulnerable place on a lion is his genital region. So that will be, you know, if you can get at that with a swift bite, you can probably end the fight quite fast. I hope you enjoyed the documentary. I haven't managed to see it yet. I'm looking forward to it though. We're going to go across to Brent to see what he's on his way to find, and we will see you a little bit later in this wonderful African morning.
Good morning everyone and welcome on this sunrise safari. My name is Brent and I have Brian on camera with me this wonderfully chilly morning. Theoretically the end of winter for us, the solstice last night, but it really doesn't feel like it. It is quite chilly this morning, but it is moving towards the warmer days, so I'll be quite excited about that. So at the moment we are moving around looking for that in this cold period in the morning. We're going to find some tracks of some of the cats. I know James is looking for cats on the other side of the reserve, so we're going to check this side of the reserve. Welcome, if those of you are new, very warm welcome from a very cold Djuma private game reserve. And if you are new, we are live, so you're seeing exactly what we see at the same time. Also, there's, oh sorry, game drive's going. No, don't worry. Also, what the thing is, we're live, we're also interactive, so you're able to ask us questions about what we see in the bush. So hopefully we've got an exciting safari in store for you, and so we're going to get moving and start heading east. Okay. So I did have a report from one of the landowners that saw a leopard in this area, but very early last night. So the chances of it being around, I'm not sure whether it was a male or a female. And then I know you guys saw a leopard on the Djuma cam at about 7:30 last night. So thanks to all the zoomies who were watching that. So we always check the junctions of roads very carefully for tracks. A lot of the animals like to use the roads as thoroughfare, particularly the cats, It's like a nice big animal path for them. And the way the road networks are generally designed in reserves is that they are built on old big elephant paths and buffalo paths. But I am starting to believe some of these leopards can fly. Managed to cross a road without leaving a single sign. Morning, Sandy from Indiana. Welcome on this sunrise safari, Sandy. Sandy would like to know why we don't see more African rock pythons while we're on drive. Whoa, excuse me. Excuse me, give me a second there, Sandy. That was... Thank you, Brian. And again, unfortunately it seems when I start sneezing it's going to be a couple before the pandemonium is over. Well, Sandy, the reason we don't see that many African rock pythons, well, particularly at this time of the year, is that they might be, they're going to be hibernating to a degree, not completely because it is still a lot warmer than other places. And we actually saw one on the walks a couple of months ago. About a month ago, just over a month ago. It's very, very interesting because an apex predator like that is quite difficult. And being such a big and powerful snake, they are not that many of them, obviously, because there'd be a lot of competition. Also, when they're born and they're quite small, there's a serious amount of predation that happens on snakes like that. You've got birds, leopards. I've seen leopard eat quite a few python, even to the tree. So very, very interesting. But the main reason is they don't live in dense numbers, so there'll be one here, and they're also quite shy and secretive. And if they're on the ground, they'll pick up from the vibrations of the vehicle and they'll try and move away from us, because most snakes try to avoid us. So very interesting. Thanks very much for that, Sandy. Having a quick look, I thought I saw a track. So there is a leopard track going in the opposite direction. So, here I'm going to be having to face a lot of chirps when I get back from drive, and they've actually already started on the radio. So we're going to cross to that evil little short man, James, see what he's got, and I'll be back with you a little later in the drive.
Hello everybody, well, we have good news. There, bottom of screen, you can see a lioness of the infamous Nkuhuma pride. Gently along the road, we didn't see anything, and I looked down, I saw the tracks, and I said to VM, they're the lions. He said, yes, I can see them. And I meant the tracks, and he meant the pride. And here they are. not too far from where we left them yesterday, and I think that's because they've been feeding. Well, they did feed yesterday. She sniffed something on the wind, and it's just very nice to see them in such sort of gentle, light conditions. We're going to go a little bit forward. The rest of the pride is there, and some of them were playing a little bit, so hopefully they'll do that again for us. Beautiful lioness, just enjoying the coolth of the morning. Ooh, hang on, we may wait here a bit. It's the same orange-eyed lioness we saw yesterday. Sorry, I'm just got to answer something on the radio. Aubrey, I found the pride. The lions are here on Rebecca's. Beautiful. Now just look how wonderfully camouflaged she is there. I'm not sure what she's looking for. She's seen something. So the meal they had yesterday was quite big. I think certainly the male had eaten his fill. He was enormously fat. But some of the females look like they didn't eat that much. And so they'll be on the lookout for opportunities. And what I read quite interestingly yesterday, you see what she's doing? She's actually stalking on her own, and she's not including the rest of the pride. That often apparently tends to be the case, where they don't necessarily include the rest of the pride. They sort of cheer each other on from the background. I'm not going to move the vehicle. I'm just going to give her an opportunity to follow what she's trying to find. So while we're just sitting watching that lioness and just giving her the opportunity to check what she's checking, Sid, you want to know, from Chicago, you want to know, how did I feel yesterday when she was standing just 3 feet from the door looking into my eyes? Was I afraid? Sid, there was definitely an element of fear. It's a very sort of it's a feeling of being very alive when a lion like that looks you in the eye. And yeah, there's an element of fear, sure. I thought it was highly unlikely that she was going to do anything untoward, given that she was full. And I think the only reason that she did even look towards us was because she was excited by the fight that they'd just had. Otherwise she'd have ignored me completely. But yes, it absolutely a little charge of adrenaline going through the body. Now imagine you were walking along the road, you'd see nothing there. Okay, we'll go just a bit forward. I'm going to leave her to just see. She might want to try and catch something, so I don't want to disturb whatever it is. And we're just going to go forward to the rest of the pride. She's still there. And the rest of the pride was here. There they are. Stations. These animals are now just to the north of Rebecca's Road. Best approach to come to Philemon's Dip Junction, Philemon's Combine, along Rebecca's Road, and you will get us just off road there. Copy that. Sorry, Betsy and Bugsy, you've asked what they were eating and what they, when they will next eat. Basically, what happened yesterday was that they killed, I think they helped to kill a big buffalo. And that buffalo, oh look at that, isn't that sweet? That's what we heard. We heard it bellowing in the night time, and they would have fed on it all night, I think. You can see from some of them that they're not that full, especially this little one walking past us that Viam will get, just walking into picture now. See, they're not that full. So I think that they fed on whatever it was. I'm thinking it was a buffalo. In fact, I know it was a buffalo. They fed for a while. They were chased off by the males. Well, certainly they fought with the males, and then they fought with the other pride. So they didn't eat their fill. The big male ate. Just stand by one, please. The big male then ate. Oh, that's spectacular. They want to keep their jaws off the wet grass. So the pride would have, the other pride would have chased them off, and so they wouldn't have eaten their fill. So Betsy, the next time they eat will basically be as soon as they can, but it's impossible to say definitively when that will be. So go ahead, Johan. Yeah, affirmative. Were you looking for me? Nice open area, 2 stations here, so you're welcome to pull in. Rebecca's Road, best approach to come from Junction, Philemon's Dip, Philemon's Cut Line, down that section of Rebecca's Road. I think we're about probably 400 or 500 meters along that road. Junction Balanites, yeah, just head to the south, not the south, the east. Right, so everybody who is perhaps a little bit confused as to why I'm yakking into a radio, there are lots of people out this morning, and some of them are guests like you, except they're actually here as opposed to on the internet, and it's always useful. We stay in radio contact so that we can help each other, and this morning it obviously feels great because we found the lions, but sometimes we have to go and join other sightings which are found by other rangers, and that's always quite useful too. Yeah, they've heard something. Go ahead. Okay, copy that. Now, interestingly, this tends to be what lions do. So you can see they're quite alert. They're not exactly fast asleep yet, but they're getting that way. So I suspect they've moved a bit during the night. Maybe they've tried to hunt something, but they tend to settle down quite a lot when it gets light, because the hunting opportunities are just much smaller. So I don't think they're going to do a huge amount today. They may prove me wrong. If something large walks past here, they'll flatten it, no doubt. Hello Liz and Tula. You just want a quick recap on which pride this is. This is the Nkuhuma pride, and they are 7 lionesses, 2 of them sub-adults, and then one of them is a young male about 3 years old, just 3 and a bit years old. I haven't seen him today, but I'm sure he's around here. He tends to spend a bit of time away from the pride. He's always the laziest, the last to stand up, to move. I haven't seen him yet today though, but there's another group of them just to the left of us, and that's where I think he is. beautiful morning. So we're going to pop across to Brent. We're going to stay with these lions and just see if they don't do anything. And Brent is looking at some water bucks, and we'll go and have a look at them. See you just now.
We need to bring this up. As the big cats, and we've got 3. The mist, and we're actually sort of on the mist line now, and you can see that white behind the waterbuck, and we sort of, it's very beautiful, quite serene. We also always good to stop and listen, and that's why we stop so often, even for the smallest things. It's not only to have a look at the beautiful animals that are here, it's also to listen for potential alarm calls that might lead us on to something else. You can see they're all fluffy from the cold, so they've erected the hair on their body and to catch a layer of air between the warmth of their body and their hair, and it sort of creates an insulative blanket around them. But they seem quite alert. See, the one keeps staring behind us. I can't see anything there. Very pretty antelope. Very elegant. So speaking of their hair is actually quite different from an impala or whatnot. It is hollow. It's shaped more like a porcupine quill. And there's a couple of species that have this adaptation. Waterbuck being one, and gemsbok or oryx being the other. And they have it for two. A waterbuck, along with that oily gland on their neck, helps to sort of almost create a sort of slightly waterproof covering over them. With the gemsbok, who lives in the deserts, or the oryx, that same adaptation is to prevent water loss, and so they obviously spend time in an area where there's very little water, and they can go days and days and days without having a drink, and they get a lot of their moisture from little bits of dew and whatnot on plants. So that hollow fiber there is to actually help regulate water loss, so they don't have another section that goes and takes on water. So very interesting how the very similar structure of the hair is very different in different species that live in different areas.
Just gonna have to wipe the lens quick.
Sorry guys, since we are sitting in this mist, Brian's gonna have to wipe the lens quickly. And we can actually, I think if we pan down onto the road, we can see that we're actually sitting right in this mist belt, so to speak. You can see the mist. It's almost just sitting at our level at the moment. So incredibly beautiful, but incredibly challenging for our cameraman. But not much going on here apart from the waterbucks. And you can see that low-lying mist just above the road at perfect camera height. So we're going to continue on, see what else we can find, and we're going to go back to Jamesy and the lions, and we'll be back a little later, hopefully with something else interesting and different.
Hello everybody. Well, Pride. They are doing precisely what I said they were going to do, which is not because I'm some sort of psychic. It's because this is predictably what lions like to do. When you sleep for 20 hours of every 24, it's not difficult to tell what the general program of the day is going to be, especially as you can just see the first rays of the sun starting to catch them, which is making their coats shine a rather spectacular golden color. We probably won't spend too much longer with them, because I think this is what they're going to do, and we spent a good deal of time with them yesterday, but we'll just see for the next few minutes if they don't get up and do something spectacular. Otherwise we'll probably move out fairly soon. Junior is here, apparently. We haven't seen him. He's in some thick bush just off to the left there, with not a very good view, so I'm not going to bash in there and disturb him, but all the Pride members are present and accounted for. Copy, thanks. As you can see, they are in no hurry on a Monday morning. Monday morning for them is not a time of great rushing and heading off to do anything particularly constructive. Hello, Morning Glory. You seem to be gaining more information than the average spy agency. You've managed to find that the Birmingham Boys, who are a coalition of 5 male lions, for those who don't know, were found at Jordan's Dam yesterday by a chap called Taxon. Morning Glory, I wish you, please will you share your source of information, because it is quite astonishing. We did hear that they were found. Jordan's Dam, unfortunately, is north of our reserve, and that's why, so we can't go across there, otherwise we would definitely have done that. And those lions tend to head frequently the Manileti the most, which is a big sort of national reserve north of us, also unfenced with the Kruger and unfenced with the Sabi Sands. So that's where they are. Oh, look at the light now coming onto these lovely lions. Hello Gillian, Wisconsin, lovely question. How do lions manage to maintain such a muscular body? When they lie around so much, they don't tend to spend a huge amount of time in the gymnasium. Gilly, there are 2 answers to that. The first is that it's genetic, so they're genetically prone to muscle. There's a lion coming from just to the left there, Viam. Just over there, and Gilly, so that's the one reason. So it's just like some people are built naturally bigger and naturally more muscular than others. It's a very similar sort of situation where they're genetically prone to it. And then the other reason is that they eat a diet of pure protein, and the exercise that they do with each other is normally quite physical, and so that does help to sort of maintain the muscle. But it's largely because that they're genetically designed to be large, muscular. They don't, of course, eat anything in the way of takeaways or junk foods. They only eat savanna, pure organic savanna African animals, so they don't struggle with weight and maintaining the condition of their bodies like those of us who are sedentary in the cities do. Some nice fighting going on there. You can just see in the background. So that will also help to maintain a bit of muscle mass, but they don't do a huge amount of that. Then, I mean, the major physical strains, Gilly, of a lion's life are the hunt and the territorial marking. And some nights they'll move a big distance, you know. I mean, if they're awake for 4 hours and they're marking territory and they're on the hunt, they'll move substantial distances, up to 25 kilometers sometimes. So that also helps to keep them in trim and in shape. An injury, Jan? Or was that just a shadow?
It's a leaf.
Oh. The sun has just peeped up. It's over that cloud bank. The wrong channel. I think maybe we'll just go a little bit further forward and see if we can't see the young male and see what he's doing, and then we'll probably head out and see what else we can find. Very peaceful little scene we have going here. So we're just going to have a quick look at the male here, and then we're going to go across to Brent, who is, I think, on a high point looking across at some beautiful low-felt vistas. Here's the young chap in front of us. Here he is. There's always great concern for poor old Junior on the Twitterverse, so to allay any fears you might have, or Monday morning blues and worries that you might have that Junior has come to some harm, rest assured he's there, away from the pride, which will happen more and more as he gets older and his testosterone levels start to grow. And there he is, rising sun, which is precisely what Brent is doing. And we're going to cross across to him, and we'll see you just now.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Brian and I decided it's such a beautiful setting. We're going to stop here and show you what we're talking about, the mist in the valley. And fortunately, there are male leopard tracks going down this road as well. So we're following up on leopard tracks and just looking at that. You can see how the mist sitting in this low-lying valley, and it's actually calmed down a bit. We're actually sitting at the same sort of line of that mist, so we're in the mist. So we do apologize if our lens keeps misting up, but it is very pretty but very challenging for the cameraman. Absolutely stunning. Okay, well, let's continue on. Hopefully we have some luck with these leopard tracks. Hi, Catherine from Texas. Welcome on the Sunrise Safari, Catherine. Catherine, I tend to agree with you. The bush this morning with the mist is particularly beautiful, and it does look like a watercolor. Oh, he nearly snuck away from me. That sneaky male leopard track, but I spotted it. I would show you guys, but it is quite difficult to see because it's on and in between grass. Now, did he change his mind again? I think I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna make an educated guess, which is quite an important thing while you're tracking. So I think these tracks are from quite early last night, and if we had to follow them every track, I'm gonna try and guess where I think they're gonna come out, and if not, then move my way back from there. Such an absolutely stunning morning. So guys, if you remember, you can send us questions, and you can do that by emailing us at questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Hi Jim, good morning Jim. Would like to know about my educational background. Jim, my educational background is a bit checkered, I'm afraid. I finished high school, and then I attempted to go to university, and I studied law for about 6 months, and that was about the end of my tertiary education. And I ran off back to the bush. Other than that, my bush education has been really, really varied. And I've been very fortunate that I've grown up in an area and worked with so many great guides and trackers who have taught me so much over the years. And you never stop learning in the bush. You constantly learning. So thanks very much for that, Jim. I love driving along these seep-lined grasslands. So this patch of grass between the thicker bush, and always a good place to look for animals because it attracts a lot of your grazing species, therefore attracts quite a lot of the predators. Still having a look out for those leopard tracks. I think they're going to pop out over there, so I'm looping around. As I said, I think those tracks are from early this morning, early last night, and are not possibly the freshest. Hi Lynn from Canada, welcome on the Sunrise Safari, Lynn. Lynn would like to know whether I've ever seen the Northern Lights, because she does love these African skies at Djuma so much. Lynn, I haven't, but it is definitely something I would like to do. I might have to get over my fear of the cold to do that, but it is definitely something I would like to do sometime in my life, is go look at the Northern Lights. Hi, Gwendolyn from Southern California. Gwendolyn would like to know if we ever see the Southern Lights from Djuma, Aurora Australis. Gwendolyn, we don't. I've actually not heard much about the Southern Lights before. Maybe they're down in Antarctica. Maybe if you guys could check for me about the Southern Lights and where they can be seen from. And you can send those answers to questions at WildEarthTV or use that hashtag Safari Live if you're on. Hi, Jeffrey from Austin in Texas. Jeffrey would like to know if there are any plants that produce fruits or vegetables during the winter months. Jeffrey, there are a few. None of them are particularly nice to eat though, I'm afraid, but are very important for the animals. And specifically later on in the winter season, right before the first rains, your grivia or raisin bushes, I'll try to find one while we drive, will produce some very small, actually quite sweet fruit, animals and bird that is sought and fought after by. Fortunately, it isn't the tastiest. Isn't the most fleshy. Very tiny, mostly seed and a tiny bit of flesh. But baboons, monkeys, birds go absolutely wild for it. And I know traditionally in Zambia they make quite a potent liquor out of it as well. And that's the only one I can think of offhand at the moment. That'll only be towards October, towards the end of the dry season. So not the true sort of winter months, the cold months. Forgotten? A quick look. No tracks yet. Morning, Lori from Wisconsin Rapids. Welcome on the Sunrise Safari. Great to have you on the back of the vehicle with us. Lori would like to know whether this mist is a help or a hindrance to the predators. Well, I think it probably doesn't make too much difference. The only one thing about mist and when it's quite moist like this, so there's a lot of moisture on the grass and that, is that predators, when they're not hunting, will tend to walk more down the road, so it does make them a little bit easier to find. But I don't think it's either a help or a hindrance to the predators when it comes to hunting. I think it's just there. As I said a little bit earlier, last night was our winter solstice, and the shortest day of the year yesterday. So today the days are getting longer and we're heading towards summer. So very, very different from you guys up in the northern hemisphere, where it's the opposite. Your days are going to start getting shorter and it's going to start getting colder. And we don't get incredibly cold here, as you can see, although I seem to think we do. And Brian, yes, we, as you see, gloves, beanies, scarves. But then again, we are very used to warm weather. Good morning. Don't fly away. Come back, come back, come back. Don't come back. Sorry, there was a white-crowned shrike that stopped on the road, but he didn't stay for too long. So, when in doubt, where do we go, Brian?
Buffelshoek Dam.
Buffelshoek Dam. Let's go have a check-in with Bob, see if Bob's managed to retain his friend from yesterday, or is he gone loner again, or is he chatting to the birds? we're approaching the waterhole now. We're just above it. Always a good place to look for tracks, though. And also keep your eyes open, guys. You never know what's going to be around the next corner. Okay, we're nearly there. Hopefully something exciting is waiting for us. Oh no, Bob. I mean, honestly, Bob, are you that unpleasant to hang around with? So it looks like poor Bob is flying solo again. Unfortunately for him. Here we can see that scar on the back. So I keep quiet for a few seconds and just listen to see if we can hear any other animals in the vicinity. You can actually see the condensation from Bob's warm breath coming out of his nose. That's how chilly it is this morning. There's a white-crested cormorant on the other bank. And she's still thinking about fishing. It's too cold. Here we go, open the wings, bask a little bit, get some warmth. Such a pretty and serene morning here at Buffelshoek. But unfortunately not too much, so we must soldier on, fight the good fight, see what else we can find. Well, let's go. So I apologize, we're going to go through a dip and we might, I say might, have a little bit of signal breakup as we go through, so just bear with us and I will try and get through there as soon as possible. We're approaching the dip. There we go, out So it looks like the gremlins are not even in the dips today, so that's good news. So we're going to head back up to the northern boundary, and my plan is from here. So I know there's that set of leopard tracks that are going there, and I said they're from early last night. Obviously you can never be 100% sure with tracks, but I suspect that they are belong to the same male leopard who arrived at the Djuma camp last night. Sorry, give me a moment. Oh dear. They like confusing me, these cats, don't they? This looks to be a young male leopard. I'm just going to have a quick look back down towards Buffalo's Hook. They do have quite a particular like for taking a certain elephant path from the waterhole. But as I was saying, I suspect those leopard tracks we found on the eastern boundary of that big male leopard who appeared on the dam cam last night. These look to be slightly more fresh, so I'm going to have a look where these go. Time around 10 o'clock last night, and he sounded like he was quite far north and west of the dam. So we will definitely go check if we have no further update on these tracks. Wonder which leopard this could be. Hi, Tina from Houston. I'm going to answer your question quickly, then I just want to have a quick look at something off the vehicle. Tina says she hears me speak about the wet and the dry season constantly. And she was saying, do we have two distinct seasons here, or do we have four? Well, very much two distinct seasons. We've got wet and dry, and with the wet is hot, and with the dry is cold. We don't have very distinct autumns or springs in this part of Southern Africa. Where there is a place in the Western Cape, which is a slightly different system. They have winter rainfall, not summer rainfall. There you have very definitely more visible seasons. But out here, it's very much wet and dry. Wet and dry, and wet is wet and hot, and dry is dry and cold. So I'm just going to have a look. I want to check this very large elephant path here that elephants, they do use it, but the leopards quite often use as a highway through the area. So I'll be off vehicle for 2 ticks. So while I decided to go try find out what happened and where this cat went, we're going to cross across to James and see what he's been up to. Hopefully I can find a cat before the end of drive. Otherwise, like I am when it happens to me, James shall too be insufferable.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Wendy. You find us at Treehouse Waterhole. We have left the lions where they were reclining gently in the morning sun, disappearing into the grass. We found some leopard tracks pretty close to here, and so that's what we're going to try and follow in the next little while and see what we can come up with. There is a bird going absolutely ballistic just near here, and I'm not sure what it is. You can hear it calling now. I can see it now. It's a 3-banded plover. If you zoom in there, next to the dove, I'm sure you can see the dove. I think what's shouting next to it is the three-banded plover. Very angry about something, but I can't imagine what. I've never heard them do that before. Quite bizarre. There's the dove. That's one three-banded plover, and there's another one shouting just to the left of that one, I think. Anyway, so it goes. On the bonnet of the erstwhile recalcitrant Wendy, we have got a tree. Now, this is not a quiz. This is a tree called Ozeroa paniculosa. Nice word for the morning, to get the lips moving. Ozeroa paniculosa, or the resin tree. I think it's a common resin tree, and very distinctive herringbone venation down the leaf. And I've picked it because it's got a rather interesting sort of medicinal use. You can powder the bark, apparently, and we had a lovely question from Sarah at Dayton Children's Hospital yesterday about whether people still use traditional medicines out here, or do they have they eschewed them in favour of sort of more Western pharmaceuticals. For the trees, it apparently is still used, and you can powder the bark for two reasons. One is for dysentery, and the other is for chest infections. Now, the most disturbing part of the story is, of course, that once you've powdered the bark and soaked it in water and created your concoction, there are two methods of administration. One oral, and the other is via an enema. Apparently you can choose which one you want. I'm really not sure why anyone would ever choose the latter. But if that is your bent out here, and you have dysentery or a chest infection, well, then this is the tree for you. Ozeroa paniculosa, the resin tree. Right, we'll press on. I'm just going to taste a bit of the bark. Or am I? No, I'm not. It's a bit of lakes there, which can often be quite toxic, so I'm not going to have a taste of it. I don't have dysentery or a chest infection at this stage, so I think we won't take any of that. Right, so we're going to carry on down here and see if we can find those leopard tracks again, and perhaps come up with a leopard. Here we go. No, that's hyena tracks we have on the road. Plenty of them. Right, I think we're going to head along just off to the east here. West, sorry. The leopard doesn't come out on this road. We're going to head across to Arathusa and see what they've got on that side. For those of you who don't know, we're operating on two reserves. One is 900 hectares, and that's Djuma. And Djuma is the Shangaan word for the sort of contact call that a lion makes. And we heard that fried yesterday doing exactly that sort of woo, call. And then the other one is called Arathusa, which is a Sepedi word, meaning let us help. And so that's where we're going to be heading, assuming we don't find any more leopard tracks on this road. the aerial there on poor old Wendy. Cameramen have a hard job keeping everything together up top there. All you see is Brent and I talking to you and the various bits of wildlife that we have, but the cameramen do an astonishing number of things behind us. Hello Claire in New York, thank you for your question. You want to know, are there any poisonous insects in the area that could kill people? Claire, there are not. There are the odd insects that will do some damage to you. I was set upon by a hornet's nest the other day, which felt like it left me feeling as if I'd bathed my head in acid. But that certainly didn't result in any death. Mosquitoes are obviously pretty dangerous if you are unaware of malaria, and not that it's a major issue in this particular area. And then of course possibly one of the most dangerous things out here for some people is the simple honeybee, who is a fairly docile thing until riled, and then can be fairly nasty, and if you're allergic to a honeybee's sting, that's pretty deadly. But other than that, no, there are no deadly insects out here. And especially not in the winter time. You know, in winter time we struggle to find insects. They tend to disappear into the ground or die off, and their eggs are, and then as the rains come and the heat increases, so they'll emerge. In summer there are a lot more insects than there are now. I suppose the other deadly sort of an insect is a dung beetle in the night. And I remember driving along one morning. Very interesting. Sorry, your pan onto that trees alerted me to something. Well, first of all, there's a woodpecker there, so let's see if we can get the woodpecker. On the far right-hand side of the marula tree that's there. Have you got him? Her, sorry. That is a cardinal woodpecker, and the male has got a trees. So that one is basically just gleaning for any kind of insect that there might be on the tree leaves. He's still there. She's still there. But what's interesting is that marula tree has got fresh green leaves on it, which is extremely odd. It almost looks, all the rest of the marulas are bare. They're totally deciduous trees. And somehow this marula's got it into its head that summer's just around the corner, which it is not. We may have passed the winter solstice, but we're certainly nowhere near summer. So it'll be interesting to note if this tree doesn't get some kind of damage, because what it's doing by putting out the leaves now is using huge amounts of reserves that it probably can't afford to lose if the lack of rain continues as it has. That's very interesting. Lisa, you want to know if we get wood roaches here? I actually don't know what a wood roach is. I'm assuming maybe you're talking about wood lice, what we would call wood lice, which are those very primitive insects that, they're not even insects, they're primitive invertebrates that knock about under dead wood and in dead wood. We do definitely get them. Strange little grey things with 6 legs. I think they've got 6 legs. I think they've got more. In fact, they've got more legs than that. We do get those. And we do get the garden variety cockroach in quite great abundance out here, especially in our buildings. And just going back to the deadly insect story, so where we used to drive at night with the spotlight, I had a tracker called Elvis, and Elvis used to sit on the front of the Land Rover and shine the spotlight. And insects, as you know, are attracted to light. And apparently it's something in the neurology of an insect that basically makes them spiral out of control towards the light. And in summer at night, we were driving along a road. It wasn't entirely unusual for a dung beetle to leap up from whatever piece of dung it happened to be resting in, fly towards the spotlight sort of invisibly, and then bang into the head of one of my hapless guests behind. And we then have to stop and tend to quite nasty wounds. The dung beetle can fly at almost 60 kilometers per hour the other direction. It's quite a hit to take from a dung beetle going 100 k's an hour, ostensibly into your forehead or your face. Hello John Boy, we do get widow spiders. Nice question. Obviously not insects, but arachnids. We get widows. We call them button spiders. We get black and brown. The black widow here can be pretty dangerous. I think there have been 1 or 2 incidences of human death from a black widow spider, but it's almost unheard of. Pretty easy to treat if you know you've been bitten, and they're not very common. It's quite difficult to be bitten by one, I think. They tend to live in damp areas and buildings, or under rocks, caves. That's the most likely place you'll find them, and they tend to be pretty reclusive. So yeah, we don't generally have trouble from them. Not many very dangerous spiders. We get the odd spider that'll make a pussy welt on you, which is pretty unpleasant. And if you get bitten by a violent spider, you can have some quite nasty necrosis of the right side, but nothing that's particularly devastating. I think a lot of people associate the wilds of Africa, in fact the wilds anywhere, with a great plethora of stinging insects and biting spiders and attacking snakes. And that really isn't the case, certainly in any wilderness area I've ever been to. Snakes will move away. The insects are far less offensive than you actually think they are. And the spiders tend to be, for the arachnophobic, they look a bit gruesome, but they're certainly not very dangerous. So we're on the very southern boundary now, and we're heading due west towards the Drakensberg Mountains, which we won't reach, hopefully. If we do, then we've got very lost. And we're going to head across into Arathusa. Now the prettiest insects we get, of course, in the summertime are the fireflies. And I've spent many pleasurable evenings driving along the banks of the Sand River, which is just down from here, and watching the fireflies flitting amongst the reeds. And that's a really special summer thing to do, especially if you are trying to woo a young lady. Fireflies tend to create an atmosphere of ultimate romance. Otherwise, not a great deal going on out here right now. Where are the animals? There's a steenbok. Hugely exciting animal. Sorry, I don't want to move the car because they generally run away as soon as they can. That is a steenbok. He's just spotted us. Oh, he's decided we're not too much of a threat. They normally stand for a while, decide that they've been spotted, and then hair off. It's astonishing speed. Look how big his ears are. That's really important if you happen to be out here trying to avoid predators. And if you're short, like that steenbok is, then you need to have ears that can hear, because often the vegetation is too tall for you to see over. It's not the best place in the world to be little. Now for a steenbok, this time of the year presents a difficulty. Because there isn't much in the way of fresh grazing, and because they're so little, they do need to eat concentrated food. So what that steenbok will be looking for now is the last of the sort of forbs, which are herbaceous plants that don't turn into trees necessarily. Quite aromatic. They'll have all sorts of different kinds of nutrients in them that other animals perhaps can't eat. They'll look for pods that have escaped notice during the summer, and they'll also look for things like rhizomes, which are the sort of nutrient-rich bases of grass, some grass plants. So they'll pull them out and try and eat those. And any sort of green leaves that are left on the low-hanging bushes, the steenbok will eat. They're called concentrate feeders, so they need pretty energy and protein-rich foods to survive. This one is particularly confiding. They often are not. Alright, that was a steenbok south of the boundary. Highly illegal for us to even look at it, I'm sure. It's not really.